I like homeworks in general. When I was a kid, I kind of enjoyed the feeling of accomplishment, knowing that I did something that I had to. You know what I mean, right? Filing your taxes in Italy is almost the same, with a big difference that the list of the tasks of homeworks, if you want, is not available right away unless you speak Italian, unless you speak with a professional, of course. There are some things that you're required to do, something that you can do, something that you must do, and something that you may or may not do. And let's see what the main difference is. If you're considered a tax resident and you know what I'm talking about, you must file your taxes applying the worldwide income principle. You cannot include just the Italian real estate or Italian sources of income. Everything goes in the form. You must include every foreign asset, foreign retirement account, even those that, following some special regulations, are considered tax exempt here in Italy. And this is very important to remember, by the way. You cannot run a business in Italy without any personal code that is called partita IVA. You can choose not to if your business or LLC, for example, is abroad. But in this case, you have to double check very carefully if you're the sole director, if you manage the whole company remotely from Italy, and what the share of property is. You can rent your place in Italy, your apartment, part of that, generally up to 3 bedrooms without any partita IVA. So in other words, as an individual and not as a business owner. However, in this case, you may have to pay more taxes since you cannot write off a lot of related managing expenses, B&B commissions on top, by the way. You can or you cannot benefit from some special tax regimes such as regime impatriati, the 50% off, the regime forfettario, the 5% that you pay on the gross up to 85,000, or the 7% for pensioners in the South as an alternative tax regime. I'm saying this because very often people get conflicting information regarding the most convenient tax regime whatsoever. Every case is different, so even when the tax rate or the percentage sounds lower, and it's actually lower, it doesn't mean that automatically your liability will come along as much. There are more information to work on, like foreign taxes paid, personal information and business structure, not to mention the life goals, that can turn any good advice into a horrible tax strategy for your wallet. And lately, you may need a professional to help you out. Let's be honest, filing your taxes in Italy is not an easy task for anyone speaking a different language, and most of all, coming from countries where you're very familiar with taxes, and generally taxes are made easy by the local regulations. Here, it's all about details, about reading everything through the lens of the Italian and international rules and agreements. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes. They love to self-diagnose the complexity of their own case, sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. The best lesson is to never cheap out on difficult tax profiles, since the price to pay in case of mistake could be from 5 to 6 figures up. Flip side, if you have a very straightforward tax return, more likely, based on Italian source of income and Italian properties or assets in general, price can be really important since more professionals could be able to provide more or less the same service. A lot of people think about taxes as a pain to remove, a very annoying duty to get rid as soon as possible. I believe it's much more than that. How do you feel when, in your life, how do you feel when you do something quickly and pray for it to be good enough at the end? See, this is the case, but in practice, the Agenzia delle Entrate does not like begging people. They do like precise people.